Evelyn Carter had spent her entire life believing family meant safety. At 72 years old, she still lived in the same small farmhouse outside Asheville, North Carolina, where she had raised her two sons. The paint on the porch had faded years ago, and the wind chimes near the front door only rang when storms rolled through the hills, but Evelyn loved that house because every corner carried a memory of her late husband, Walter. After Walter died, Evelyn became careful with money. She clipped coupons, planted vegetables in the backyard, and quietly saved part of her pension every month. Over 15 years, she built enough savings to finally do something she had dreamed about since childhood: buy a small lakeside cabin where the entire family could gather during summers. Her oldest son, Daniel, encouraged the idea more than anyone. "You deserve something peaceful, Mom," he always said. Daniel handled most of Evelyn's paperwork because she struggled with computers and online banking. He paid her utility bills, renewed insurance forms, and often reminded everyone how much responsibility he carried helping his mother. To the rest of the family, Daniel looked dependable. Especially to his younger sister, Claire. Claire lived 3 hours away in Charlotte and worked long shifts as an emergency room nurse. She visited whenever she could, but Daniel was the one who lived nearby. Naturally, Evelyn trusted him. One autumn afternoon, Evelyn called Claire sounding unusually excited. "The cabin is finally happening," she said. Daniel found the perfect place near Lake Lure. Claire smiled hearing the happiness in her mother's voice. Evelyn had not sounded that hopeful in years. Over the next several months, Daniel constantly talked about paperwork delays, inspections, and transfer fees connected to the cabin purchase. Evelyn signed documents whenever he placed them in front of her. She never read them carefully. Why would she? He was her son. Then winter arrived, and strange things started happening. Evelyn stopped turning on the heat during cold nights. She canceled a dental appointment because she claimed she could no longer afford it. The refrigerator held mostly canned soup and bread. When Claire asked about the cabin, Evelyn's smile faded. "Daniel says the bank still hasn't finalized everything," she explained quietly. Something about her voice unsettled Claire. A week later, Claire drove to Asheville unexpectedly. The moment she walked inside the farmhouse, she knew something was wrong. Past due notices were stacked beneath a pile of magazines near the kitchen counter. The electricity bill sat unopened. A final warning letter from the pharmacy mentioned unpaid medication costs. Claire's stomach tightened. Her mother had over $300,000 in savings. There was no reason for overdue bills. That night, while Evelyn slept, Claire searched through the office drawer where Walter used to keep important papers. What she found made her hands shake. The lakeside cabin did not exist. No property records. No purchase agreement. No mortgage paperwork. Instead, there were bank statements showing massive withdrawals over 2 years. Transfers to luxury car dealerships. Payments toward expensive vacations. Private school tuition. Even monthly deposits into an account belonging to Daniel's wife. Claire barely slept. The next morning she drove Evelyn directly to the bank. The branch manager looked uncomfortable the moment he pulled up the account history. Over $200,000 had disappeared. Every withdrawal had been legally authorized through financial power granted to Daniel years earlier after Walter's death. Evelyn stared at the screen in complete silence. Finally, she whispered, "There was never a cabin, was there?" Claire couldn't answer. The truth became worse over the following days. Daniel had used his mother's savings to maintain a lifestyle he could no longer afford after his construction business failed. Instead of admitting the truth, he slowly drained Evelyn's retirement while inventing the fake cabin story to explain missing money. When confronted, Daniel became defensive immediately. "I was going to pay it back," he insisted. "You stole from her," Claire replied. "I took care of her for years." "No," Claire said coldly. "You took advantage of her for years." Evelyn said almost nothing during the argument. That hurt Claire more than the shouting. Her mother looked smaller somehow, like betrayal itself had physically aged her overnight. Eventually, lawyers became involved. The court froze Daniel's financial access and ordered forensic accountants to investigate the missing funds. Family members who once defended Daniel quickly distanced themselves when evidence surfaced showing he had purchased luxury items while Evelyn skipped medical care to save money. The most painful moment came during mediation. Daniel tried to justify everything by saying, "Mom would have wanted to help me anyway." Evelyn finally looked directly at him and answered softly. "If you had asked, I would have helped you willingly. But you chose to lie instead." For the first time in his life, Daniel had no response. The legal process lasted nearly a year. Daniel was eventually forced to sell his vacation property and several vehicles to repay part of the stolen money. The rest would come through long-term court-ordered payments. But the real damage could never be measured financially. Trust once broken never fully returns. Months later, Claire visited the farmhouse again during spring. The garden had bloomed beautifully behind the house. Evelyn sat on the porch wrapped in a blanket, drinking tea while watching the mountains. "You know something funny?" Evelyn said suddenly. Claire sat beside her. "I never really wanted a cabin." Claire looked over, surprised. "Then why were you so excited about it?" Evelyn smiled sadly. "Because I thought my family still dreamed together." The wind moved softly through the trees. After a long silence, Claire reached for her mother's hand. And this time, neither of them let go.